The Bengals are almost finished with their open training camp practices to media, but before that's happened, we've got a great look at Chidobe Awuzie, whose star continues to point up, and other practice takeaways from Wednesday's practice.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Lisco. He's your host, James Rapine, bringing you Bengals content every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. And when you do that, join the First Listen Club, making us your first listen to the day. Join the Everydayer Club, making us an everyday listen, as we'll keep you up to date on everything going on with your Bengals. And we appreciate every single one of you who does either or both of those things. Today's episode brought to you by the Gametime app, where you can create an account and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. James, we're going to dive into some training camp takeaways. We got one more practice that you get to watch all of coming on Thursday, probably as some folks are listening to this episode. But on Wednesday, Chidobe Awuzie continuing to move in the right direction, and that's where we will start. Working in 11 on 11s, had an interception on a pretty poorly thrown ball, it appeared, against Jamar Chase. But every step of the way for Chido, from the offseason program to the first looks we had at him going into training camp, to us speculating about how quickly he'd be activated off that PUP list, to him being activated the very next day, he's impressed at every step of the way in this recovery. He went so far to say even that he felt like he could have played 4 months after the surgery. And while he acknowledged there's still going to be a mental part of the recovery as he returns to more and more football activities, what an impressive recovery from that injury for the Bengals' number one corner.
It's been so far the most impressive ACL recovery I've seen, firsthand. And naturally, everyone goes to Adrian Peterson. I think that's the most famous one, where he comes back and is just a man amongst boys, which I still don't know how he did that. I think it was in 2012 when he was just insane. But that said, Chido looks awesome. From the interception today against Jamar Chase, literally the first snap of 11s. Jake, first snap, he's able to do that. That is so impressive. Mike Petraglia has a video at Trags on Twitter. It's special. It's why I get the writing might be on the wall that Chido Awuzie, you have Cam Taylor-Britt, you have DJ Turner, both guys are really promising. Writing might be on the wall that he doesn't re-sign here, but man, he is so good. That's one of the best signings the Bengals have ever made in free agency. And I'm saying that before we know exactly what he can do this season. Obviously, it's year 3 of that contract. He's so impressive. You should have seen him on the ping pong table today. The dude is chirping. He's moving. It's doubles. It's Tyler Boyd and Chidobe Awuzie versus Jermaine Pratt and who was it? And Akeem Davis-Gaither. And it is as intense as it would be if they were going at each other and on the football field. So Awuzie is moving around really well on the field. Off the field, he's feeling really good. It's not like there's soreness and he's icing his leg and all of those things after these practices. This dude was standing and playing ping pong for like an hour after practice. So, it's his first couple days of 11 on 11, and he's doing that. I think that is a great sign. And it's been a great sign really since we saw him in OTAs. This has just been a theme where it's like, man, Chido, I don't see how he's not ready for week 1. And that felt unfair at the time, but it turns out it was fair. It was realistic. And I think it's going to happen. And not only that, Jake, my expectations are kind of high for him in week 1 to not be that corner that gets beat because it's his first game back from an ACL. I'm not saying he won't get beat at times. It's all part of playing corner, but I think he's going to play pretty well right from the jump.
Yeah, there's no reason in my mind to expect otherwise from what we've seen so far. And it's not like he's going against, average Joe's a wide receiver, even if the quarterback play hasn't been great and continues to not be great. That's, I think, all we need to say about the quarterback play with the Bengals backups at this point in training camp, unless you have something to add where maybe there was some positives that I didn't see all of on Wednesday. He's going against really great competition at receiver. Was there something I missed at quarterback that was good while I bring it up before we continue on Cheeto?
Mean. You are mean. You just assume they're going to be bad? Is that where we're at?
I saw 2 interceptions, and neither was a particularly well-thrown ball. I saw Jamar Chase's great catch on a ball that didn't appear to be particularly well-thrown. So that's all I saw today.
And T. Higgins had to do a similar motion. He was running I believe it was a slant. I'd have to look back. It had to be a slant. And it was behind him, and he did one of those, I'm going to come back here to catch it. Thank you, Cam Taylor-Britt, for not crushing me. Yeah, it wasn't great. Left something to be desired. I'll say that. But, anytime I think someone has the edge, and Jake Browning today, I thought he had the edge coming into today. And I wrote this morning, and today is Wednesday, by the way, for those wondering. I wrote this morning, if he has a good couple of days of practice, plays well on Saturday, I think he's got the backup job locked up. And the first pass is an interception by Cheeto. So that's just kind of the theme. I think they're neck and neck for a lot of the wrong reasons. I don't want to say all of them because it isn't all bad, but it's more bad than good.
Back to the topic of Chidobe Awuzie.
Left Jake speechless.
I mean, what else is there to say, right?
I agree. No, there's no need to pile on. I agree.
Yeah. Chidobe Awuzie, one of many stars on this team that I think stars as far as the Bengals go, maybe not NFL superstars, but certainly one of the leaders of this defense. And we talked a lot this offseason about how important it would be for him to get back if he was going to be ready to go right away. And to be fair to Cheeto, he's not ready to say, yeah, I'll be out there week 1. He's not making that bold statement or prediction yet, but every indication is out there that he's doing all the work necessary and is doing the football activity necessary at this point to show that he will be ready to go for week 1. And like you said, while we've been impressed with DJ Ivey and DJ Turner, who was back in practice, as I understand it, on Wednesday, James, having Chidobe Awuzie out there with Cam Taylor-Britt taking a step is a huge, huge boon for this secondary, where we've seen some impressive stuff from Dax Hill this preseason and in camp. We've seen Mike Hilton continue to be Mike Hilton. We know exactly who he is as one of the better slot corners in the NFL. And having those guys together as a unit in that secondary where there's a bit of scrutiny, especially at the safety spot, should help smooth that transition. And I'm excited to see that Cheeto is playing this well this early in his recovery and return to 11 on 11s.
No doubt. It's huge. It's huge. It's exciting. And hopefully this secondary can deliver on my expectations, because I'll be 100% honest with you right now. And by you, I mean all the listeners. I told multiple members of the secondary today how good I thought they were, and they were going to be, despite all those questions. I have high expectations for Dax Hill and Nick Scott, and behind them, Jordan Battle and Tyson Anderson. And those are the 4, spoiler alert, safeties that I think make the 53-man roster. Obviously, Mike Hilton. If Cheeto's out there, Cam Taylor-Britt has had a hell of a camp. That's a good secondary with DJ Turner coming off the bench, and or your 4th corner, whatever you say, your 3rd outside corner. Maybe backup nickel, even though I think Jalen Davis has that spot on lock as well. So it's a really good secondary, and I've had high expectations for them. That said, the Bengals practiced today, and Jake, let's go. It was really hot, so that's my first practice takeaway. Let's get to more practice takeaways, because there's only one more day of Bengals training camp, and that is Thursday. We will reflect on Wednesday's practice coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime.co. That's where you should go. Gametime.co, because buying tickets to see your favorite events should not be stressful, and it is stressful. I understand that, and that's why I use Gametime. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets and they have their best price guarantee. So you don't have to stress over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. You can just worry about that fun and pay attention to that fun, because you're not going to have to stress over the ticket buying. So don't plan months in advance if you don't have to. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, baseball, concerts, and so much more. So let's just say you want to go to week 1 in Cleveland, which is an easy trip for Bengals fans. Get to Gametime right now. Gametime.co is where you should go. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but you can use that towards week 1 tickets right now. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL in the Gametime app or Gametime.co with promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Wednesday training camp practice. We have some takeaways to talk about. Second to last practice for the media to be in attendance for the entirety of practice. And the first training camp practice that has been held partially or in its entirety in the temporary indoor practice facility by the Cincinnati Bengals. Tomorrow also will be inside. They had half of practice outside today. Putting that bubble to use.
More than half now.
Am I still going to get in trouble for saying bubble?
Yeah, man. I don't know what you're trying to do to me. I'm the one here. You're trying to get me in trouble because you're in Canada soaking up the rays, even though you're allergic to sunlight. Yeah.
That's not true.
Jake is allergic to the sun. That's one thing I learned with him in town.
I had a great tan line around my neck when I got home. But that was a takeaway.
Because he was outside for 2 minutes without a hoodie. Go ahead.
That was a takeaway, I thought, is that they were using the climate-controlled facility for part of practice and will continue to do so on Thursday. The heat continues to be present. And
I'm crushing you again, man. It was pre-planned, bro. It's just the end of camp. They're just trying to be nice to the guys, I think.
Why don't you tell me what the practice takeaways are, James?
Jake's smiling for those on audio, but he's hating me right now. Literally, that was the first conversation I had. They were like, no, it was pre-planned. I don't think it has to do with the heat necessarily. But it was probably nice for the guys to, you're right, work in the climate-controlled area for a few sessions, including, all the individual stuff, including install. And then they came out to the outside practice fields and got more work in, obviously.
They're just hiding they're hiding from the drones and the bridge crew. That's right. Yeah. In the sunlight, which you can relate to. All right, let's get to practice takeaways. People are going to ask if you're allergic to sun now, and I'm going to laugh so hard. Practice takeaways. First one, we talked about the quarterbacks. Not much more to say there. 2, I think today was about getting different units, like switching it up some. Like you saw some guys that aren't necessarily on first team or starters play on the first team. We saw Miles Murphy get some reps there, so that's good for him. I saw DJ Ivey get some reps as well. That doesn't mean they were all with the first team, to be very clear, but some were. That said, my biggest practice takeaway outside of the quarterbacks and outside of Cheeto, Jamar Chase with one of the best catches. And he makes it look so easy that I think most people that see it are going to be like, oh, it's a pretty good one-handed catch, but it's not great. He did like a helicopter to do it, like turned his body around, makes the catch on the sideline, gets 3 feet down based on the video that I looked at, that I tweeted it out, by the way, so you can look at it too. Definitely gets 2 down. It's definitely a catch, but I think he got 3. It was a heck of a catch on a not great ball from Trevor Siemian. Something that we've seen from Jamar Chase quite a bit, and unfortunately, he has like half a foot out on a number of plays that would otherwise be played ad nauseum on repeat on various highlight shows to show off the insane, spectacular catchability that he shows off from time to time, because he's always had it and he's shown it in games even, but like think back to that, what was it, Steelers game? Was that week 1 when he was out of bounds on that crazy one-handed catch? Can't remember exactly when it was. I think that's what it was. But he's done this a few times in games that have been very close when they haven't been counted. And it's just a reminder that these guys are still really good. T. Higgins, still really good. Tyler Boyd, still really good. You go back to the previous practice, there's a running play where you get Orlando Brown pulling, Cordell Volson pulling on a guard tackle counter play. Those guys absolutely crunch their targets in space. I think Carmen gets on Miles Murphy and Orlando Brown gets around to get Jermaine Pratt at the second level and just opens up a beautifully blocked hole for Joe Mixon and an opportunity for him to break a tackle and make a big run. You're seeing plays from Chidobe Awuzie, one-handed interception from Logan Wilson. You go down the list, Trey Hendrickson has been named one of the MVPs of camp. Sam Hubbard looks like he's taking a step as a pass rusher, both in games, in the limited sample size we saw, and in practice. We're seeing Zach Carter taking steps as a pass rusher. DJ Reader, still the guy he was. So for all this stuff about, the backup quarterbacks maybe haven't been playing at the highest level, a whole lot of other guys are playing at a really high level on both sides of the ball. And I guess part of what I wanted to highlight here and put some shine on is that some of these stars for the Bengals still look like stars.
No doubt.
All of them, really.
No doubt. Yeah, you're right. They do. And just going back to our show yesterday, we talked about potential breakout players. And when you combine those two groups, like guys that could be poised for a breakout and the stars, so potential stars and stars, in stars that it is relative because there's two, I think, superstars on this team in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I think if you ask a lot of NFL fans, they might not know many members of the Bengals defense. There's no true star on the Bengals defense, I don't think. And I'm not knocking those guys because I think they play like stars, so they are. But if you're not NFL diehard, do you really know who DJ Reader is if you live in Arizona? I think that's part of it. But he's not necessarily mentioned as one of the best nose tackles if you're a casual fan and you just watch on Sundays and have your fantasy football team, but he obviously is. So, yeah, they're playing at a high level. And this team, they're rounding out well because you can't let the backup quarterback play or, any of the other things we could talk about weakness-wise, because there aren't many weaknesses. That's one that stays, really grabbing a hold of a lot of people's attention, including ours. But this team is deep everywhere else as I've seen in Cincinnati. And they are clearly one of the most talented teams in the league right now. And Joe Burrow's coming back soon. That I'm pretty confident about. Not saying it's going to be tomorrow. No, and we talked about it at length if you want on Wednesday's show. So make sure you check out our last show from this one. So check that one out. But no, I do think it'll be soon. It won't be tomorrow. It won't be Thursday. But soon. Define soon. Soon is soon.
Soon, TM. Several weeks when I said several weeks ago.
Soon from when I said soon is what I'll say on Tuesday when you ask.
There you go. Some other interesting things are happening around Bengals training camp. Orlando Brown and my estimable co-host James Rapine down at Alex Pickleball. Do I have that right?
Aces. God, you and names, bro. I mean,
in my defense on that one, I've heard it mentioned literally once. So being outside
I don't expect you to know the name. You're busy soaking up rays in Canada. But like I said,
like the joke, like I get it. It just is so irrelevant to my actual life. It's just that's why it's funny for me. Anyway, coming up next,
reality.
It's especially for our listeners who just like have no idea. You're just painting a picture that's anyway. Yep. A couple other fun notes to get to here to wrap up the show today. We'll finish the show there coming up next.
Jake wears sunscreen at night. We're back here on Locked On Bengals.
I'm out, man. You can finish the show yourself today.
I got it.
See you guys. It's been real. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
Just mute my mic.
Oh, man. I talked about I talked with Orlando Brown Jr. You're right. And maybe his humor is rubbing off on me. I think he is going to be easily, and I think this is a super loaded locker room full of nice guys and guys that people root for and fan favorites and everything like that. I think by the end of the season, he's going to be like a top 5 most liked Bengal. And I'm not just saying that because I interview. I like personality, charisma, humor, all of those things. And he's going to be the best left tackle they've had since Andrew Whitworth. So it's and how many more fans do the Bengals have now that they didn't necessarily have in 2016 Whitworth's last year, 2015 their last winning season with Whitworth, that they have now that haven't seen Burrow protected the way they want and hope. And now if they do that and have success on the field, combine it with that, I think Orlando's going to be right up there, man. I'm serious. He's awesome.
One of many very charismatic, very likable guys in that locker room that every player I've talked to, when I've had opportunities to talk to them or even just watching interviews, you can tell most of the time these are people that seem like they're good to be around, and you understand why that chemistry is formed. Because when you have a bunch of good people and you have a common goal for those people, it tends to bring out the best in everybody. Also, you told me about a cool ping pong note.
That's
we
right.
haven't talked about ping pong very much in training camp, and I know that this drives some people crazy, which is why we're talking about it here at the 22-minute mark of the show today. But I thought this was a pretty cool note. You talked about how the chessboard hasn't been out. You told me the chessboard hasn't been out this preseason. It's been just 100% ping pong instead. So I thought this was a cool note that you shared.
Yeah, it's been a lot of ping pong, some cards, no doubt, some poker, but mostly I don't know poker, to be very clear. It's a poker table. It's a card table. So I just assume poker, but cards, I don't actually know what game they're playing, because ping pong is what's dominating and is certainly all the rage. Most of the time, no one's at the other table, the card table. So, they had two professional ping pong players in the building on Tuesday. I was told Zach Taylor was the one that came up with it, the coaching staff. I'm sure Zach might have came up with it or whoever, but Zach's the one who made it happen. And I think these guys were humbled a bit. That's what I was told, is that these professionals, it was a man and a woman, two professionals, and Trent played the woman, Trent Taylor, who's considered arguably the best ping pong player in the locker room. It depends on who you ask. I probably would say he's the best. Obviously, stylistically, games match other games. You could debate that all day long. Point is, he said he was close. He lost. He was close. Other teammates say it wasn't as close. They did a little better. That he did a little better than some of the others. But apparently, the guy pro was able to blow on the ball during his serve and make it spin in crazy ways where it would bounce over the net and then just spin back. And there was this weird speed spin combo that was just unbelievable. So I think they realized what the pros look like, and even though it's really competitive in there, I think they know that they're not pros.
Now you put these ping pong or table tennis, they might prefer. I don't know what the preferred nomenclature is. I truly don't know. But you put some of them on the football field, they're not going to look like professional football players either. It's just good old.
Even if they play flag
athletes.
Football for a few weeks, they're not going to. Oh,
I'm sorry to say it, James. You'll never look like a professional football player either.
Here's the thing: looks. What do you mean look like? Because I don't think Trent Taylor looks like a professional. I don't think he looks like a professional football player if you just look at him.
I mean, if you tried to play football
out there
with professional football players, it would look a lot like how you're describing my relationship with the Sun.
That's one of the two things. Actually, I don't know. I actually think I have a better chance in the NFL than you do at winning a fight against the Sun.
The Sun beats everybody, of course. Like the Sun is undefeated.
The Sun is undefeated.
It is.
See, I
It's the
told
most
you
powerful thing in our solar system. It's
Oh,
a nuclear reactor. There's
God.
one more thing we
We're
were going to hit.
25 minutes in. It's a nuclear reactor. That's what I get.
That's what the Sun is. There's one more thing we were going to hit before we get out of here. And now I can't remember what it was because I started thinking about the Sun. Is that it?
Yeah.
Do you remember the other thing?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh.
One more day of training camp. Oh, he figured it out.
Speaking of professional athletes interacting with professional athletes of other sports, just cool to see reports that there were some Bengals out at the FC Cincinnati, Miami.
Yeah.
Messi
Burrow
in
and Chase and Burrow with T on. Well, I was going to say sprinkled in. That's how the song goes.
That's going to do it for this episode of
Those
the
three are
Locked On Bengals
confirmed.
podcast.
By the way, by the time people hear this, there's probably going to be more Bengals that you see there, but those are the three that I know are going.
I just thought, it's another cool tie-in to the professional athletes between sports and some respect, humbling, whatever it is.
Are you flying in and then just going to go when the sun goes down?
That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We're back tomorrow to preview preseason game number 3 and the wrap on Bengals training camp. After that, we'll have a game to talk about. We'll have cut downs to talk about and cover. And then we're gearing up for the regular season, James. And we're, of course, looking forward to that. So until next time, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.